The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal ocean. Thousands of alien beings sat in curved rows that reached up into the shadows. Their eyes, tentacles, and sensor organs all focused on one human man standing alone in the center. Jiho Park adjusted his black diplomatic uniform and looked up at the towering judges. His hands were steady, but his heart pounded like a war drum. 3 years of trials had led to this moment. 3 years of accusations, evidence, and fear. Today, the galaxy would decide if humanity deserved to exist among the stars. The Supreme Chancellor rose from his throne. Veltar was a Vorthak, tall and pale with skin like polished bone. His voice echoed through speakers that translated his words into 1,000 languages. The trial of the human species concludes today, Veltar announced. We have heard the evidence. We have seen the proof. Humanity stands accused of being too violent, too dangerous, too unpredictable for civilized space. In the viewing gallery, Dr. Minji Kim gripped the railing. She was Earth's best scientist who studied alien life. For months, she had watched species after species testify against humanity. The crystalline Zephyrians claimed humans were emotionally unstable. The gas-formed nebuloids called them conquest-obsessed. The insect-like klaxons simply stated that humans smell of death. We did nothing wrong, Minji whispered to herself. We explored, we traded. We tried to be friends. But friendship was not enough. The galaxy was afraid. Captain Donghyun Lee received the trial updates on his ship, the Yuan Horizon. He was patrolling the edge of human space, protecting the colony of New Jeju. His crew was young and eager, mostly Korean and Chinese volunteers who had grown up dreaming of the stars. Captain, his communications officer called out. Priority message from Earth Command. Donghyun read the message with growing dread. The vote would happen in 6 hours. If humanity lost, they had 1 year to abandon every world beyond Earth's solar system. 47 colonies, 12 star systems, millions of people who had never seen Earth but called themselves human. All of it would have to be abandoned. Back in the council hall, Veltar continued his speech. Humanity arrived in our galaxy only 200 years ago. In that short time, they have established 47 worlds. They reproduce faster than any other species. They adapt to environments that would kill others. They create weapons from farming tools and turn peaceful planets into fortresses. Jiho wanted to speak, to defend his people, but the rules were clear. This was not a debate. This was a judgment. Most concerning, Veltar said, his pale eyes gleaming, is their history. On their homeworld, humans fought wars for thousands of years. They killed each other for land, resources, beliefs, and skin color. They built weapons that could destroy their entire planet. When they finally achieved peace, they immediately reached for the stars. The gallery murmured with alien voices. Fear and disgust mixed in the sound like poison in water. Dr. Yoonji Choi sat in her office on the moon base Luna City. She was the head of Earth's Colonial Development Project. Her computers showed the locations of every human settlement beyond Earth. Each dot of light represented thousands of lives, families, dreams built among alien suns. Her assistant knocked on the door. Ma'am, the preliminary reports are coming in. Yoonji did not look up from her screens. How bad? Very bad. The Vorthax convinced almost everyone. The betting pools say we lose by 800 votes. 800 votes. 800 species saying that humanity had no right to exist in their galaxy. In the council hall, the voting began. Each species stood and announced their decision. The method was ancient and formal, designed to show the weight of each choice. The crystalline Zephyrians vote to banish humanity. The IE gaseous nebuloids vote to banish humanity. The United Klaxon Hives vote to banish humanity. Jiho counted each vote like a sword thrust. His people had tried so hard to be good neighbors. They shared their technology. They helped with disasters. They even fought alongside council forces against space pirates. But none of that mattered now. The galaxy saw only what it feared to see. The aquatic swimmers vote to accept humanity. A small victory. The swimmers were brave ocean dwellers who appreciated human underwater cities. But they were only one voice among hundreds. The molten shapers vote to accept humanity. 2 voices. The shapers worked with humans in asteroid mining. They understood human dedication to hard work. Captain Donghyun watched the vote count on his ship's main screen. His crew stood silent around him. Many of them had been born on New Jeju. It was their home. Earth was just a blue dot they had seen in pictures. Sir, his weapons officer said quietly. If we refuse to leave, we follow orders. Dong-hyun replied firmly. We're not pirates or rebels. We're still human. The vote continued for hours. Species after species chose banishment. Some spoke of fear. Others mentioned prophecies about a young race that would burn the galaxy. The Vorthax had done their work well, spreading fear like a plague through the council. The Silicon Builders vote to accept humanity. 3 voices now. The Builders appreciated human engineering skills. But 3 votes could not stop 800. Dr. Minji Kim closed her eyes as the final counts were announced. In her research, she had found something the council refused to hear. Many of the galaxy's greatest innovations had come from species the council once called too dangerous. The peaceful Zephyrians had once been violent crystal warriors. The wise nebuloids had been space pirates for centuries. Every species grew. Every species changed, but the council would not let humanity have that chance. Veltar stood for the final announcement. The hall fell silent except for the hum of life support systems and the breathing of 1,000 different species. The vote is complete. 847 species vote to banish humanity from galactic space. 3 species vote to allow humanity to remain. The words hit like physical blows. In the gallery, Minji Kim felt tears running down her face. On his ship, Captain Dong-hyun closed his eyes and whispered a prayer in Korean. Humanity has one standard galactic year to remove all presence from beyond their home star system, Veltar continued. Any human found in galactic space after that time will be destroyed. Any ship, station, or settlement will be eliminated without warning. Jiho Park stood alone in the center of the Great Hall. Around him, 847 species had just declared his people unwanted. But he was still a diplomat. He was still human. He bowed formally to the council, a gesture of respect his enemies did not deserve. We will comply, he said simply. As he walked from the hall, Jiho Park could not know that this day would be remembered differently by history. The day the Galactic Council made their greatest mistake. The day they gave humanity a reason to become everything they feared. The evacuation ships filled the sky above New Jeju like metal clouds. Captain Dong-hyun Lee stood on the observation deck of the colony's main building, watching families load their entire lives into cargo containers. Children cried for pets that could not make the journey. Old people wept for gardens they would never see again. 6 months had passed since the council's vote. Earth's government had ordered all colonies abandoned. 47 worlds, 12 star systems. The largest migration in human history was underway, but it was not going smoothly. Captain, his communications officer called from behind him. Admiral Nam wants to speak with all ship commanders. Priority channel. Dong-hyun walked to the communications room. On the main screen, Admiral Hyunwoo Nam appeared. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was still strong. Captains, the Admiral began, I know you've all been loading refugees for months. I know your ships are overcrowded and your supplies are running low. But I have a question for you. The Admiral paused, looking directly into the camera. Do you really want to go back to Earth? Dong-hyun felt his heart skip. Around him, other officers looked confused. Going back to Earth was the plan. It was the order. Think about it, Admiral Nam continued. Earth has 8 billion people already. Where will we put 3 million colonists? In refugee camps? In underground cities? Our people will become second-class citizens on their own home world. On the colony ship New Seoul, Admiral Nam stood before his senior staff. Captain Yuna Huang was his second in command, a sharp woman who had helped plan the evacuation. Dr. Sun-ho Bae was their head scientist, a quiet man who studied space and time. I've been reviewing our star charts, Dr. Bae said, pulling up a holographic map. The Council controls about 60% of this galaxy, but there are vast regions they've never explored, empty space beyond their borders. You're talking about the dark sectors, Captain Huang said. No one goes there. The space is too unstable. That's what the Council believes, Dr. Bae smiled. But I've been studying quantum fold space anomalies. I think I can navigate those regions safely. We could go beyond the Council's reach entirely. Admiral Nam nodded slowly. We won't be refugees anymore. We'll be explorers again. The plan was dangerous and completely illegal, but word spread quickly through the evacuation fleets. Ship captains held secret votes with their crews. Colony leaders asked their people what they really wanted. The answer surprised everyone. Most humans did not want to return to Earth. They wanted to go further out, deeper into the unknown. They wanted to find their own worlds, build their own future. Engineer Jiwan Yang was working on the atmospheric processors in the New Soul's cargo bay when the announcement came. They were jumping into unknown space looking for a new home. She felt excited and terrified at the same time. "Are we sure about this?" she asked her work partner. "Sure about what? Going back to a planet where we'll never fit in? Or taking a chance on making something better?" Jiwan thought about her childhood on New Jeju. She had been born under alien stars. Earth was just a place in stories. "Let's build something better," she said. Dr. Bay's calculations proved correct. The first quantum jump took them past the edge of Council space into a region marked as unstable on all galactic charts. But space there was not unstable at all. It was simply empty, unexplored, forgotten. "Scanning for star systems," the New Soul's navigator reported. "I'm reading 17 systems within range. 3 of them have planets in the habitable zone." Admiral Nam smiled for the first time in months. "Set course for the closest one." The system they found was perfect. The star was stable and yellow like Earth's sun. 3 planets orbited in the zone where water could exist as liquid. The second planet was almost exactly Earth-sized, with breathable air and vast oceans. "It's beautiful," Captain Huang whispered as they watched the planet grow larger on their screens. Commander Seojin Choi was leading the first scout teams to land on the planet's surface. His job was to check for dangerous life forms and establish a safe landing zone for the colonists. What he found instead changed everything. "Admiral," Seojin reported over radio, "you need to see this." In a valley between 2 mountain ranges, the scouts had discovered ruins. Not alien ruins. The architecture was somehow familiar, built for creatures the same size and shape as humans. But the buildings were ancient, millions of years old. "There are symbols carved into the stone," Seojin continued. "I can't read them, but the mathematics. Admiral, these people understood quantum physics. Their technology was more advanced than ours." Dr. Bay analyzed the ruins from orbit. His scanners detected metal structures deep underground, still powered after millions of years. "Admiral, this isn't just a ruin. It's a complex. Whatever civilization built this, they were incredibly advanced." More scout teams landed. More ruins were found. Entire cities lay buried under centuries of plant growth. The technology was clearly built by human-like hands, but it was far beyond anything Earth had ever achieved. "Who were they?" Captain Huang asked. "I don't know," Admiral Nam replied. "But they're gone now. This is our world now." Engineer Jiwan Yang led the construction teams that built the first permanent settlement. They called it New Busan, after the port city on Earth where many of the colonists had been born. But this city was different. It combined human engineering with mysterious technology found in the ruins. The power generators were based on designs carved into ancient stone tablets. The water purification systems used methods no Earth scientist had ever imagined. The communication arrays reached across space with clarity that amazed everyone. Within 6 months, New Busan was not just surviving, it was thriving. The colonists were growing food, manufacturing goods, and exploring their new world with enthusiasm Earth had not seen in generations. More ships arrived from other evacuated colonies. News spread through secret channels that humans were building something amazing beyond Council space. Instead of returning to Earth, more and more refugees followed quantum breadcrumbs into the dark sectors. Captain Dongyun brought the last refugees from New Jeju to the growing settlement. As his ship landed, he looked out at a city that had not existed a year ago. Children played in parks between buildings that mixed human architecture with ancient designs. Markets sold goods from a dozen different worlds. Schools taught both human history and the mysteries of their new planet. "Welcome to Void Prime Alpha," Admiral Nam said as Donghyun stepped off his ship. "Welcome to the first world of the Terran Dominion." "The Terran Dominion?" Donghyun asked. "That's what the colonists decided to call our new nation. We're not refugees anymore, Captain. We're not colonists. We're the founding citizens of something new." In the months that followed, more groups arrived. Some came from the asteroid mining stations that had been abandoned. Others came from the outer research posts that had been too far from Earth to evacuate in time. A few came from Earth itself, humans who could not stand the idea of living in a galaxy that had rejected them. The first census counted over 2 million humans living in 17 star systems beyond Council space. They had built cities, established farms, created industries, and founded universities. They had taken the ancient technology and made it better. Most importantly, they had proven something the Galactic Council had not expected. Humans did not just survive when they were abandoned. They did not just endure when they were rejected. They thrived. Dr. Minji Kim arrived on the last supply ship from Earth. She had spent months studying the ancient ruins, trying to understand who had built them and why they were so perfectly suited for human use. "I think I know what happened here," she told Admiral Nam as they walked through the archives beneath New Busan. "I think we're home." "What do you mean?" "I mean, this isn't the first time humans have reached for the stars. The people who built these cities, who created this technology, I think they were our ancestors. Millions of years ago, before Earth, humans had an empire out here." Admiral Nam stopped walking. Around them, ancient machines hummed with power, waiting for human hands to activate them again. "If that's true," he said slowly, "then the Council didn't exile us from the galaxy. They sent us home." 3 years after the banishment, Minseo Park stood before the assembled representatives of 37 human worlds. She was Jiho's daughter, but where her father had been a diplomat, she was a leader. The colonists had elected her as the first president of the Terran Dominion. "We are no longer refugees," she announced to the crowd gathered in New Busan's Central Plaza. "We are no longer exiles. Today we officially establish the Terran Dominion as a sovereign nation among the stars." The cheers could be heard across the city. 3 years of building had created something remarkable. The Dominion was not just larger than the old Earth colonies. It was completely different. Every citizen could fight. Every settlement could defend itself. Every world contributed to something greater. General Kyungmin Yu had restructured the military around harsh lessons learned from the banishment. Never again would humans be caught defenseless. Never again would they depend on others for protection. "The Council taught us something valuable," he told his officers during a strategy meeting. "They showed us that in this galaxy, strength is the only thing that matters. Kindness is seen as weakness. Peace is seen as opportunity for conquest." His new military doctrine was called adaptive warfare. Human soldiers trained not just to fight but to think. They studied alien psychology, learned enemy weaknesses, and planned for every possible threat. Most importantly, they prepared for the day when the Council would come for them, because everyone knew that day would come eventually. Dr. Hajin Ko made the discovery that changed everything. She was studying the ancient ruins found throughout Dominion space, trying to understand the technology that seemed to respond only to human touch. "The quantum resonance patterns are fascinating," she explained to President Park during a private briefing. "This technology doesn't just work for humans. It was designed by humans. The neural pathways, the genetic markers, the bioelectric signatures, everything matches." "What are you saying?" President Park asked. "I'm saying these ruins aren't alien at all. They were built by our own species millions of years ago. Humanity didn't originate on Earth, Madam President. We came from out here, from the stars." The implications were staggering. If humans were originally a spacefaring civilization, then everything the Council believed about them was wrong. Humans weren't dangerous newcomers. They were the oldest species in the galaxy, returning to their birthright. Explorer Captain Taehyun Seo confirmed Dr. Ko's theories when he found the first intact ancient facility. His ship, the Destiny, had been following quantum breadcrumbs deeper into unexplored space when they discovered something incredible in the Zerion Nebula. "It's a shipyard," he reported to Dominion Command. "Massive doesn't begin to describe it. The station is the size of a moon, and it's still functional after millions of years." The ancient shipyard was a treasure beyond imagination. The construction bays were designed for vessels that made current human ships look like toys. The computer systems contained blueprints for technology that the galaxy had never seen. Most amazingly, the facility began activating the moment human hands touched the controls. "It's like it was waiting for us," Captain Taehyun whispered as lights came on throughout the massive station. Fleet Admiral Chaeyoung Lee oversaw the construction of humanity's new navy. She was a brilliant strategist who understood that the Dominion's survival depended on military superiority. The ships built in the ancient yards combined human engineering with recovered technology, creating something entirely new. The first vessel to roll out of the yards was the TNS Defiance. It was twice as large as the biggest Council warship, but it moved like a fighter. Its weapons could punch through any known armor. Its shields could absorb attacks that would vaporize other ships. How many can we build? President Park asked during her inspection of the shipyard. As many as we need, Admiral Lee replied. The facility is completely automated. It just needs raw materials and human oversight. We could build 1,000 ships if necessary, then build 2,000. The transformation of human military power happened quickly. Within 2 years of discovering the ancient shipyard, the Dominion fleet numbered over 500 vessels of various sizes. Each ship was crewed by humans who had grown up knowing they were unwanted by the galaxy. They fought with the fury of the rejected and the skill of the desperate. But the Dominion was more than just military might. Dr. Woo Jin Park, the director of colonial development, had created something unprecedented in galactic history. A truly meritocratic society. We don't care what world you came from, he explained to new immigrants arriving from Earth. We don't care about your family name or your connections. We care about what you can do and how hard you're willing to work. The result was explosive growth in every field. Scientists made breakthrough discoveries. Engineers built impossible structures. Artists created beauty that moved people to tears. Without the rigid hierarchies of Earth or the species-based discrimination of the Council, human potential flourished like never before. Word began to spread beyond human space. Alien traders who ventured into the dark sectors returned with stories of a new power rising beyond the galactic rim. Ships that moved faster than thought. Cities that gleamed like jewels on worlds that had been empty just years before. A civilization that welcomed anyone willing to work for the common good. Some of these traders were not just looking for profit. They were looking for something better than the rigid caste system of the Council. Min Jae-bai, the director of immigration, processed the first non-human applications for Dominion citizenship. They were from species that had been classified as lower tier by the Council, beings whose intelligence or usefulness had been deemed insufficient for full membership in galactic civilization. They want to join us? President Park asked, reviewing the applications. They want what we have, Min Jae replied. Freedom, opportunity, respect. The Council treats them like servants. We treat them like equals. The decision to accept non-human citizens was controversial among some humans. They had been rejected by the galaxy. Why should they welcome aliens in return? The debate was settled by Dr. Minji Kim, now the Dominion's leading xenobiologist. She addressed the Dominion Senate with simple logic. We didn't hate all aliens when the Council rejected us. We hated the system that judged entire species based on fear and prejudice. If we become what we fought against, then the Council was right about us all along. The first non-human Dominion citizens were sworn in on the 5th anniversary of the banishment. They included crystal miners who had been enslaved by the Zephyrians, gas form traders who had been cheated by the Nebuloids, and insectoid workers who had been treated like machines by the Klaxons. Welcome to the Dominion, President Park told them. Here, your worth is determined by your actions, not your species. By the 6th year of exile, the Terran Dominion had become something the galaxy had never seen before. It spanned 47 star systems, governed 12 billion beings of 17 different species, and commanded the most advanced fleet in known space. The ancient humans who had built the ruins would have been proud. Their descendants had returned to the stars not as conquerors but as builders. They had created something better than what came before. But in the older regions of the galaxy, fear was growing. The Galactic Council had received reports of the new power rising in the dark sectors. Ships that outmatched their own. Technology that surpassed their understanding. A civilization that seemed to be everything they had feared humanity would become. Supreme Chancellor Veltar called an emergency session of the Council. In the same hall where humanity had been condemned, he stood before the assembled species and spoke words that would doom them all. The human infestation has not died as we hoped. Instead, it has grown into something worse than we imagined. They have built an empire in the shadows. They command alien allies. They possess weapons beyond our understanding. The fear in the hall was thick enough to taste. Species that had voted to banish humanity now wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. There is only one solution, Veltar continued. We must destroy them completely. All of them. Every ship, every world, every trace of human presence in the galaxy must be eliminated. The vote was unanimous. 847 species agreed to genocide. But this time, humanity would not stand defenseless before their judgment. This time, humanity would fight back. And this time, the galaxy would learn what humans were truly capable of when they had nothing left to lose. Reconnaissance Commander Hyjin Lim was patrolling the edge of Dominion space when her sensors detected the Council fleet. 3 Vorthak destroyers had wandered too close to the Kepler system, probably looking for human settlements to map for their invasion. "Sir," her weapons officer reported, "they're scanning our colonies." Hyjin smiled coldly. The Vorthaks thought they were hunting helpless refugees. They had no idea they had just encountered the Dominion Navy. "Power up weapons," she ordered. "But don't lock on yet. Let them get comfortable." Her ship, the TNS Hunter, was one of the new stealth vessels built with ancient technology. To Council sensors, it looked like empty space. The Vorthaks had no idea death was approaching. "They're moving toward the civilian stations," her navigator reported. "Not anymore," Hyjin said. "All weapons, fire." The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The Vorthak ships never had a chance to return fire. Their shields collapsed under weapons they had never seen before. Their hulls cracked like eggs under the Hunter's advanced cannons. When the smoke cleared, 3 Council destroyers drifted powerless in space. Their crews were alive but trapped, their ships completely disabled. "Should we destroy them, sir?" the weapons officer asked. "No," Hyjin replied. "Take them prisoner. I want to know exactly what the Council is planning." The interrogation of the Vorthak prisoners revealed the worst news possible. Supreme Chancellor Veltar had assembled the largest military fleet in galactic history. Over 3,000 warships from 16 different species. The target was simple: complete extermination of all human presence in the galaxy. Intelligence Director Youngji Nam read the report with growing rage. She had been building the Dominion's spy network for years, cultivating contacts among alien species who were dissatisfied with Council rule. Now that network was paying off with detailed intelligence about the coming invasion. "They're not planning to conquer us," she reported to President Park and the military leadership. "They're planning genocide. Total elimination of the human species and anyone who has allied with us." General Kyungmin Yu studied the fleet compositions on his tactical display. 3,000 ships. That's 10 times larger than our entire navy. "In a straight fight, they would destroy us," Fleet Admiral Cheong Lee agreed. "But we're not going to fight straight." The plan was audacious and completely ruthless. Instead of waiting for the Council fleet to attack Dominion space, humanity would strike first. Using the ancient jump gate technology, they could appear anywhere in Council space instantly without warning. Operation Righteous Fury, President Park announced to her war cabinet. "We hit them before they can hit us." The operation required perfect timing and absolute secrecy. Admiral Lee commanded the Space Forces while Field Marshal Sang-hoon Kim prepared the ground invasion troops. They had one advantage the Council had never seen before: humans who fought not for conquest, but for survival. Remember, President Park addressed the military commanders before the operation began. "We're not doing this because we want war. We're doing this because they gave us no choice. Every Council world we take, every ship we destroy, brings us closer to a galaxy where our children can live in peace." The attack began at exactly midnight, Dominion Standard Time. 17 human strike forces appeared simultaneously in Council space, targeting the most important military installations in the galaxy. At the Vorthak homeworld, Captain Do-hyun Choi led a squadron of the newest human warships against the orbital defense platforms. The ancient weapons mounted on his ships tore through Council technology like paper. "Vorthak Command, this is the Terran Dominion Navy," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly. Resist and face the consequences." The Vorthaks chose to resist. It was the last mistake their military would ever make. Admiral Jamin O commanded the fleet that struck the Zephyrian crystal foundries. The crystalline aliens had built their entire civilization around creating perfect geometric structures. Their cities were beautiful, their ships were works of art, and their military was completely unprepared for human tactical thinking. "They fight like they build," Admiral O reported during the battle. "Everything in perfect formation, everything following predetermined patterns. Break the pattern and they don't know how to adapt." The Zephyrian fleet shattered like actual crystal, under human attacks that came from unexpected angles and impossible directions. Field Marshal Sang-hoon Kim led the ground assault on the Klaxon hive worlds. The insectoid species had always considered themselves superior to mammals because of their hive mind coordination. But hive minds had a weakness that human military doctrine had identified years ago. Cut off the Queen's communication nodes, he ordered his troops as they landed on the primary Klaxon world. Without central coordination, the workers can't function. Human soldiers moved through Klaxon cities like ghosts, using stealth technology derived from ancient human designs. They disabled communication centers, captured key strategic points, and left the hive mind deaf and blind. Within 6 hours, planets that had been council strongholds for thousands of years were under human control. The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Council forces were larger and more numerous, but human forces were faster, smarter, and more adaptable. Where council commanders followed traditional strategies, human leaders improvised and innovated. Most importantly, humans were fighting for their right to exist. Council soldiers were fighting to maintain an order that had begun to crack the moment they voted for genocide. The turning point came 8 months into the war, during the Battle of Velteron Prime. The Vorthak homeworld was the symbolic heart of council power, defended by the largest fortress in the galaxy. Supreme Chancellor Veltar had retreated there with the remnants of his personal fleet, convinced that the ancient fortress could withstand any attack. He was wrong. Captain Do-hyun Choi brought his flagship, the TNS Retribution, into orbit around the heavily defended world. The fortress fired everything it had at the human ship, but the ancient shields held against weapons that should have vaporized any vessel. Chancellor Veltar, Captain Choi broadcast to the planet below. "This is your final warning. Surrender now and order all council forces to stand down. You have 1 hour to comply." Veltar's response came through gritted teeth. "Humans are a plague upon this galaxy. I will see you all destroyed before I surrender to your kind." Captain Choi sighed. He had hoped the Vorthak leader would be reasonable. "Very well. Prepare the Stellar Disruptor." The Stellar Disruptor was the most terrible weapon found in the ancient human ruins. It could destabilize a star, turning it into a supernova that would destroy entire solar systems. Humanity had hoped never to use it, but the Council had chosen genocide. Now they would face the consequences. "Stellar Disruptor armed and ready," the weapons officer reported. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving surrender signals from across the system. The Planetary Defense Force is standing down." Captain Choi paused with his finger over the firing control. "What about the Chancellor?" "Sir, Chancellor Veltar he's requesting permission to come aboard. He wants to surrender personally." The sight of the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Council kneeling on the deck of a human warship was broadcast across the galaxy. The being who had orchestrated humanity's banishment now begged for mercy from the species he had tried to destroy. "I yield," Veltar whispered, his pale skin showing the bruises of defeat. "The Council yields to the Terran Dominion." Captain Choi looked down at his former enemy without hatred. "The war is over, Chancellor." "Your people are safe. All species are safe. Humanity doesn't want to rule through fear." "Then what do you want?" Veltar asked. "We want what we've always wanted," Captain Choi replied. "A place among the stars where our children can grow up free." The formal surrender was signed 6 days later on the neutral station of Deep Space Nine. Representatives from every council species came to witness the end of an era. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 10,000 years, officially transferred all authority to the Terran Dominion. But the humans who accepted that authority were not the same ones who had been banished years before. They had been forged by rejection, strengthened by exile, and tempered by war. They had learned the hardest lesson the galaxy could teach. Sometimes you have to fight for peace. Field Marshal Sang-hoon Kim stood at attention as the surrender documents were signed. Around him, human soldiers who had fought across dozens of worlds maintained perfect discipline. They had won the right to exist, but they would never forget how close they had come to extinction. Intelligence Director Youngji Nam watched the ceremony with mixed feelings. The war was over, but the work of building something better had just begun. How do you govern a galaxy that once voted unanimously for your destruction? The answer would define the next chapter of galactic history. President Park received the news of victory while standing in the ruins where the first humans had settled after their exile. The ancient buildings around her seemed to hum with approval. Humanity had returned to the stars not as conquerors but as the architects of something better than what came before. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, The question was, what would they do with it? 5 years after the war's end, Empress Ariam Song walked through the rebuilt chambers of the Galactic Council. The hall where humanity had once been condemned now served as the Imperial Senate of the Terran Dominion. She was no longer just president. The representatives of 1,200 species had voted to crown her as the first empress of the new galactic order. The title felt strange, but the responsibility felt right. Where once 847 species had voted to banish humanity, now over 1,200 species pledged loyalty to the Terran Dominion. The galaxy had grown under human leadership, welcoming previously unknown civilizations that the old council had ignored or oppressed. Your Majesty, Chancellor Minjay Bey approached with the daily reports. He had been appointed as the head of Imperial Justice, overseeing courts that were fairer than anything the old council had provided. The morning briefings are ready. Empress Ariam nodded and took her place on the throne that had once belonged to Veltar. But where the Vorthak's seat had been built to intimidate, hers was designed to welcome. Representatives could approach without fear, speak without permission, and disagree without punishment. "What's the status of the reconstruction projects?" she asked. Ahead of schedule on all fronts, Director of Colonial Development Woojin Park reported. "The former council worlds are adapting well to our governmental system. Economic productivity is up 30% across the board." It was true. The oppressive caste system of the old council had been replaced by merit-based advancement. Species that had been classified as lower tier for thousands of years were now contributing as equals. The result was an explosion of innovation and prosperity that amazed everyone. Dr. So-Young Lee, the Imperial Science Advisor, had overseen the greatest collaborative research project in galactic history. Scientists from hundreds of species worked together, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded by the old council's rigid hierarchies. The medical breakthrough alone have extended average lifespan by 20%, she reported. The Zephyrian crystal healing techniques combined with nebuloid gas form therapy and human genetic medicine have created treatments we never thought possible. And the exploration fleets? Empress Ariam asked. Admiral Dongyun Lee, now in his 70s but still commanding exploration missions, smiled proudly. "We've discovered 43 new civilizations in the outer rim sectors. All have requested membership in the Dominion. None have been rejected." That was perhaps the greatest change from the old council. Where the previous government had been exclusive and fearful, the Dominion was inclusive and welcoming. Any species that agreed to the basic principles of equality and cooperation could join. Cultural Ambassador Neon Shin had established programs that celebrated the diversity of galactic civilization while promoting human values of adaptability, determination, and innovation. Former enemies now work together as partners in building something greater than any of them could have achieved alone. The Vorthaks have submitted their application for full membership. Restoration, she reported. Their new leadership has embraced our principles completely. It had taken years for the Vorthaks to overcome the shame of their former chancellor's actions. Veltar had died in prison, broken by the knowledge that his hatred had nearly destroyed his own people. But the younger generation of Vorthaks had proven themselves worthy allies. Approve the application, Empress Ariam decided. Everyone deserves a second chance. The transformation of the galaxy had not been accomplished through conquest alone, though humanity's military superiority had made rebellion impossible. The real change had come through example. When the Klaxon hives saw that individual achievement was rewarded alongside collective effort, their society began to evolve. When the Zephyrians discovered that their crystal singing could be appreciated by other species, they opened their culture for the first time in millennia. When the Nebuloids learned that their gas-form nature was seen as fascinating rather than disgusting, they began sharing their ancient wisdom. Your Majesty, General Kyungmin Yu entered the throne room. Even in peacetime, he maintained the military preparedness that had saved humanity during the war. The annual military review is ready for your inspection. The review was held in the Great Plaza outside the Imperial Senate. Representatives from every member species watched as the Dominion military displayed its strength. But this was not a show of intimidation like the old council's parades. This was a demonstration of protection. Human soldiers marched alongside Vorthak warriors, Zephyrian crystal shapers, and Klaxon drones. The military that had once fought to survive now stood ready to defend everyone who called the Dominion home. "Impressive," commented the aquatic swimmer representative. Her people had been one of the few to vote against humanity's banishment years ago. Now they served as admirals in the Dominion fleet. "But I remember when humanity had only a few hundred ships. Now you command fleets that span the galaxy." "We learned from necessity," Empress Ariam replied. "When the galaxy rejected us, we had to become strong enough to survive alone. Now that we're not alone anymore, that strength protects everyone." In her private moments, the Empress often walked through the memorial gardens dedicated to those who had died during humanity's exile and the war that followed. At the center stood a statue of Ambassador Jiho Park, her grandfather, who had stood alone before the Council's judgment. The inscription at the base read, "They thought our strength made us dangerous." They were right. Dangerous to tyranny, dangerous to stagnation, dangerous to the idea that any species should be limited by the fears of others. Dr. Minji Kim, now elderly but still serving as the chief xenobiologist, often joined the Empress for these quiet walks. She had been there at the beginning, watching humanity's condemnation. Now she saw the galaxy flourishing under human leadership. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the Council had accepted us?" she asked during one of their evening strolls. "Sometimes," Empress Ariam admitted, "but I think this is better. If they had accepted us, we would have become just another member species, limited by their rules and their fears. Instead, we became something more." The ancient human ruins throughout Dominion space had yielded more secrets over the years. The technology found there suggested that the original human civilization had been similar to what they were building now. Inclusive, innovative, always reaching for something better. "Perhaps this is what we were always meant to become," Dr. Minji suggested. "Maybe the Council's rejection wasn't a punishment. Maybe it was destiny." The greatest proof of the Dominion's success came from an unexpected source. Earth itself had requested to join the galactic government their exiled children had created. The homeworld that had abandoned millions of colonists now wanted to be part of what those colonists had built. "The Earth delegation has arrived," Chancellor Minje reported during the morning briefing. "They're requesting an audience with Your Majesty." The meeting was held in the same chamber where the first human colonists had been sworn in as Dominion citizens. Earth's representatives looked nervous as they entered, knowing they faced the judgment of people they had once abandoned. "Your Majesty," the Earth ambassador began, "we come seeking membership in the Terran Dominion. We know we have no right to ask, but you have every right." Empress Ariam interrupted gently. "You're human. You're family. The only question is whether you're willing to embrace what we've built out here." "We are, Your Majesty. Earth has learned from its mistakes." The vote to admit Earth as a member world of the Dominion was unanimous. After 10 years of separation, humanity was whole again. As the years passed, the galaxy continued to evolve under human leadership. New species were discovered and welcomed. Old conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than war. Scientific advances that had been impossible under the rigid council system flourished in the Dominion's collaborative environment. Admiral Dong-Hyun Lee, now commander of the deep space exploration fleets, pushed the boundaries of known space ever outward. His ships carried not weapons of conquest but tools of discovery. They sought not to dominate new worlds, but to invite new civilizations to join in building something better. "The galaxy is vast," he reported to the Imperial Senate during his final active duty briefing. "There are millions of species we haven't met yet, billions of worlds we haven't explored. Our work has just begun." As he spoke, messages were arriving from the edge of galactic space, signals from civilizations so distant that their light had taken centuries to reach Dominion sensors. Each message was an invitation to first contact, a chance to extend the circle of cooperation even further. In the memorial gardens, Ambassador Jiho Park's statue seemed to smile as ships launched toward those distant stars. His granddaughter had built exactly what he had always dreamed of, a galaxy where every species could reach their potential, where strength was used to protect rather than oppress, where the word human was synonymous with hope rather than fear. The Galactic Council had banished Earth to save themselves from humanity. Instead, they had forced humanity to save the galaxy from itself. The irony was not lost on anyone, least of all Empress Ariam's song as she